Welcome to the Uncensored Self podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Uncensored Self podcast. And I have maybe my favorite guest ever on the podcast today. The one and only Derek Sobek. Hi, honey.
It's recording, right?
Yeah, we're recording.
Fantastic.
How are you?
Great.
So I have been asking Derek to come on the podcast for months now.
Honey, since the day you met me.
Really? I didn't have this podcast when we met.
Well, I mean, it was, it was going to be there. It was always there. So since the day you met me, you've been imagining getting me in front of your whoever to show me off or something.
Is that what we're doing here?
Apparently.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
You just did.
Can you tell us more about who you are, Derek Sobek, other than just being Derek Sobek?
Well, which version of me would you like to meet?
I like to believe that I've met a few of them, but
Right.
whichever one you'd like to introduce.
I mean, what do you want to know?
What do you care to share?
Well, Eric, this is my significant other, Ryan. We have a pretty good life together.
Do we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us something else about you, Derek, other than your name and who I am. What do you do for a living?
I'm the VP of operations for a HVAC company and the director of operations for a management holding group.
And also a partner in the business.
A partner in the business.
So most of you know the story. A lot of you know the story. I guess it depends on how long you've been listening to the podcast, whether or not you know Derek's story. But Derek is one of my favorite manifestations. And how long had we been talking when I told you that I had made a list and that I had manifested you?
It's like 30 seconds.
That's not true.
I think it was after I told you I was reading a book and you wouldn't shut up after that. I was like, well, there's two of the things on the list he saw. He reads a book and then you just, all the rest seemed to fall into place.
How do you feel about that?
Kissed you when we were in high school, so I think I picked you first. And you just been trying to recreate me ever since and couldn't do it. And then you finally wrote it down and set the goal, and there I was.
Oh my goodness, I've never heard this version of the story.
Oh,
So I don't know if everybody knows that about the high school part.
sure.
So the story is that Derek and I always want to say we grew up in the same town, but that's not true because you didn't grow up there. I grew up in a small town in Kansas and Derek moved there. You go, what, a junior?
Yeah, junior high.
He was a junior in high school. And yeah, apparently we made out at a school dance and then I ghosted you.
For sure. Or I ghosted you, either way.
The way you told me the story was that I ghosted you.
I mean, it was pretty rude of you never to talk to me after that.
Did I really never talk to you again?
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't know.
That's interesting.
It was high school and all. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. And then we reconnected in August of 2023.
That long ago already?
It was. And I mean, we were still strangers. Like we knew one another, but we were definitely strangers. We didn't know anything about each other as adults.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure.
What was that experience like? Going on a first date with me.
I mean, it was pretty interesting to, what your vision of somebody was 25 years ago and what they are now. And, trying not to have expectations. It was interesting. You were pretty loud, to be honest. I think you're in the middle of transforming into, something different, as much like we all are all the time. And you were still pretty loud.
I'm still pretty loud today, though.
I mean, in moments.
Yeah.
But I think your outside person was much louder. And now your inside person is louder.
Yeah. Well, and I think I forget that a lot of you, again, Derek and I started dating 2.5 years ago. I was doing all the work at that time and I thought I had softened a lot, right? Like the version of me that Derek met was so much softer than the version of me that I had been, but I still, even now, am a whole lot softer than I was. And I use the word softer intentionally, right? Like you said, I like your example, like your outside was really loud. Now your inside is louder. Yeah, there was still a lot of bravado. There was still a lot of masculine energy. And sometimes I still think that, like, I'm still surprised that was not a turnoff for you. I was still holding on to a little bit of like my bad bitch air at that point in the game.
I mean, I thought, there was other attractions there as well. So it was easy to stay engaged. And, I saw the real you. I saw this, the version of you that you wanted to be.
Sure. And that is very much your gift. You are extremely intuitive
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And I think, honestly, the trust, you trusted me implicitly, regardless of what I told you about my previous relationships in my life. And I don't think there was ever a moment where I felt you judged me for it from day one.
No. Well, I was in the middle of my own shit show and my own transformation. And I remember very consciously thinking, and I might have even said it to you, Derek, I, I was a totally different person 5 years ago. Like, I don't want to be judged for who that person was or the choices that person made because I'm not really proud of her either, you know? So it just didn't make sense to me to judge you for anything that you'd done previously because I wouldn't want you to judge me for that.
Sure.
What do you think would surprise a lot of people about our relationship?
Boy, there hasn't been a day since we first started talking, the day we started talking, that we haven't connected in some form or fashion, even when I'm out of town multiple times a day. And, there's a lot of, I don't know, connection that most people don't get from me.
Yes. And I find that like when I go to Derek's work events and stuff, like we just went to your gala and things. And I in the beginning, and it was so fun because this year's our third gala together. So the first one I went was 23, and I was still totally on guard in my own shit, right? Like all the things at the time, judging everybody in the room, not really in that observer role. And so this year, I think is the first time I really like sat back and observed. And I do notice the way people notice you with me because it's very different of what they get from you.
Sure.
Is that a fair assessment? But it's always been that way. Like I've never, the only reason I know there's another version of you, you've told me, but like you've always been that way with me.
Sure. And I didn't have to be in protection mode. I think most of my life I've been in protection mode. And, outside of our relationship, there's still a lot of that where I don't feel like they trust me. So I'm not going to trust them. So I'm always protecting myself against them. And I think that was most of my life. No matter, it's not the person, the relationship or whatever. I just have never felt like somebody had my back in most any situation.
Yeah. I mean, you've been on your own personal development journey. Mine has obviously been through coaching and masterminds and things like that. Like, what does your journey look like that led you to, like you shared with me, you've always been really intuitive, right? You've always been an observer of people. You've understood more than most in a room in a lot of ways. What's your personal development journey been?
I mean, most of it was trial by fire.
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of things that were self-caused, some unself-caused throughout my life, and from the time I was little, and just really taking things apart. Like I've always been an operations-focused person. I could take anything apart, put it back together. Things came easy to me in that way. I just started taking apart people in that way, which isn't always fair to them because I dress them down before I work towards a relationship. And that's, it's been my biggest part of my journey is not dressing people down before I actually trust them or work towards trusting them, because boy, it doesn't feel good. But, when you spend your life dressing yourself down, that's where that comes from. I spent a lot of my life not appreciating myself because, when you do, no matter whether you were loved or not loved or whatever the situation was, like, I don't know what tripped my trigger when I was in my development that made me feel untrusted.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case with all of us, right? Like so much of our shit we project on the outside world. It's other people I can't trust, but it comes down to trusting ourselves first, right? It's I'm not lovable, but I don't love myself, right? We were just talking about that this morning. What are your thoughts on like, because I still, and again, the rest of you don't know how much softer I am than I once was, because y'all probably still see me in a lot of masculine energy and a lot of loudness, in watching my evolutions and the way that I have changed even in the last 2.5 years. Again, what do you think would surprise people about me?
Currently or previously?
Let's go previously and then currently.
You were hardness in your masculine energy is because you didn't ever feel supported.
Right.
And you were scared more than most, as strong as you were there, you were still scared because you've always been, the small town you always wanted to leave. You didn't want to be a part of it. And then, you had to figure it out on your own, and you've been figuring it out on your own, even though you were scared the whole time, and you just built that wall the opposite of mine. Yours was just stronger on the masculine side. Mine was more on the, untrusted person side, I believe. So, and I saw that early, you were scared to be seen as not enough, or like you didn't achieve the goals that you said you would, and all the things.
Yeah. What do you think would surprise people now? Current state.
that I make most of the decisions in our relationship.
Last week we went ice skating with my parents and the kids, and we were talking about jeans, and I really want a pair of like the super baggy boyfriend jeans that are in style right now, and Derek is not a fan of the jeans at all. And so there's people ice skating, and I'm like, I love those jeans, and I'm talking to my mom, and I'm like, but Derek doesn't like them, so I don't wear them. And she was like, you listen to him? And then she looks up, she goes, she listens to you? Mom's like, I bought the jeans just to fucking piss him off. Like, she was just floored that, like, I was like, oh, he doesn't like them, so I don't wear them. And it's not that I wouldn't. I'm just yet to find a pair that I had to have. And most of the time when I shop, you're with me. And so I factor in your opinion.
She factors in my opinion on most things. Oftentimes I find annoying.
This is not Remy's first appearance on the show. It's Dad's first appearance on the show, but not yours, right, girlfriend? What? Why are you up here? But yes, I do factor in, and I think that would probably surprise a lot of people. I do factor, I go to you for a lot of things. For a lot of things. And I do think that would surprise most people. And I think even, again, personally with my friends, they'll ask for, can we do this? Do you want to go here? What about this? And I'm like, I don't know. I gotta, like, I'll ask Derek. And I was never like, I'll ask my partner girl. Like, no.
Right.
But I do ask you. And now it's a habit. And now I do want your opinion. What do I do when I don't like your opinion?
I mean, I like to say it's our temper tantrums, but I don't know that that's a thing, really. I mean, I don't think you don't like my opinion very often, because I think, I think people would be surprised that we're pretty aligned on most things.
That's true too.
Except for how to discipline our children. That's been a struggle. I'm, again, a very operationally focused person, and I believe there's order, and that's tough.
But I think that's one of the biggest transformations you've had in our relationship is you have really looked at just parenting, like, as you've grown and you start to realize, like, oh, why am I the way that I am? And it was because of the ways we were handled as children, right? It was the things that we were told. And so I feel like you have been extremely intentional in the way you parent kids, the way you talk to the kids, the way that you approach them. Again, our styles are still different because you're just different in general, but you have softened a lot in that way. I think it's one of the biggest transformations is you're realizing that, like, oh, that's why I felt the way that I felt about myself. How do I make sure that these kids don't feel that way? With still instilling values and, all the things, right? How do we raise them to be good humans without doing the thing? And I have a great relationship with my parents. Your parents are still in your life. We're not blaming them, right? They did the best they could with what they had, but it's definitely, you've done a lot of that work.
Sure.
I don't think a lot of folks know you have adult children, which I still think is so odd. Like, we're so not old enough for that. But I have girlfriends with grandchildren, which is bizarre. But talk to us about your boys.
Yeah, they're great boys, Lance and Logan. They give me a hard time, and they've been through me with a lot, like, in unwavering with them. They always show up, they're always here, but they give me a hard time with the kids.
Yeah.
We were on vacation in Oklahoma having a family dinner and the boys were there, and the kids were there, and Lance says, "You would never ever let that slide." And mind you, like, I don't think, I wasn't a spanker, I wasn't
No.
Anything like that, but like when my kids were growing up, if I said boo, they jumped. And
Yeah.
that came very early. And with your children, I wasn't in the
Sure.
early phases, and
Yeah.
it's so it's interesting to see.
It's fun to watch, though. Like, it's fun to watch your adult kiddos pursue a relationship with you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that, to me, that is the ultimate testament of parenting. None of us are perfect, right? We're all going to do the wrong thing and say the wrong thing and all that shit. But, like, the fact that you have boys that are 21 and 24 years old, and they seek you out as much as you seek them out.
Right.
And I think that's really, really cool. And it says a lot about, character and values and things like that. So it's a really interesting dynamic, because I'm just awkward as fuck. I don't know what 24? Like, I don't know. I just always feel, and then it's such an interesting dynamic because your dynamic with the kids, with your boys, shifts. And so there's a dynamic in the four of us, and then your energy shifts. And I just kind of, like, I sit back and watch sometimes more all together and kind of let you do your thing. And I deal with the littles as much as I can, but I kind of let you do your own thing, because I always feel awkward because I'm like,
I turn into the silent protector with my kids. Like, I'm there to protect their feelings, not the situation. And I think with your kids, I protect them, but I teach them more.
I
So
do.
there's a different feeling without how that goes. I think of our float trip, and I'm trying to manage everybody's expectations and feelings all at once. And
Yeah.
I get really quiet and internal because I'm just trying to figure out the solution, right? Like, the operation, like
Yeah.
if I just do this and this and this and this, everybody should be happy. And then, people aren't happy because we're
Yeah.
trying to solve the problem instead of just enjoying the time. And I think that's, the interesting part of the dynamic, especially anytime with my family where
Yeah.
I feel like I've always been the protector and the,
Sure.
just trying to manage all the things, and then I get lost in my own bullshit.
Yeah, but you're even more gregarious with your family than you are with the boys. Like as far as you take on the, kind of asshole persona that they've given you when you're
Sure.
with them. But so do I. Like that's the fun part too. Like I also have the asshole persona in my family. I am for sure the asshole.
Right. That's why I get along with your mom so well. I'm her favorite. I just get to agree with her and
Yeah.
make her feel validated, and she enjoys that thoroughly.
Mm. So one of the things that I really love about our relationship is I feel like even though our job titles and our work and what we do all day, every day is so dramatically different, but it's so rooted in the same thing, right? It's all about helping people see their potential, right? Helping people, those that want to become the best version of themselves. And so I think to me, one of my favorite parts of our relationship is that when we talk about our work and, I'm talking about conversations I'm having with my clients or, people who are listening to the show or following us on social media, in that way, right? And your conversations are with your colleagues and your peers and different things like that. What's that experience like? Like we're not doing business together, but like the way our careers are growing, how does that feel to you?
Really good. I mean, since we've, rekindled things and got back together, I think you've helped me a lot. I've been in the same company for a long time, and, I was always the pointer outer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, really good at pointing out. I knew what was going on. I could, see all the things. But what I always struggled with is telling the person or getting the person to understand why,
Yeah.
and all the things. And, you've helped me really find myself again, which helped the other part of that. And, I think that in that balance, I think you've shifted as well, where I've
Sure.
taken some of the role that you were having to feel all the masculine
Yeah.
energy in a relationship previously.
Yeah.
I think it's brought you back down to your level, me up to,
Yep.
where I was in the fixing energy all the time. And now I'm just in the, just that creating energy. So,
Yeah. It's so fun. I think it's so fun to work together and in that dynamic. Because yeah, I joke sometimes. I've never said this to you, but like you've gotten what, 2 promotions, 3 promotions since we've been together?
something
3?
like that. Yeah.
3? I definitely take responsibility for that.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Or I was just holding back till I had the right person to prove it to.
But you don't have to prove yourself to me. I've
I
never
know,
given
right?
you that. I've never given you that assignment.
Maybe not prove. That's a horrible word. I hate that word.
I think maybe it's more to build with, right? Like you said that to me once we were talking about somebody else, and it was, we're talking about how
Give
somebody,
it to give it to. That's it.
yeah. And let's talk about that because receiving is a big part of what we talk about, obviously, when it comes to feminine energy, when it comes to all of those things. And receiving is still to this day does not come naturally. I have to work really hard. I hate that word. I have to be really intentional in order to receive. What has that looked like for you? Because you are such a giver in that way.
Oh, early in the relationship, you struggled massively with it.
Tell us
Like
more.
almost to the point where you didn't want to go do things because you didn't want me to pay for them.
Yeah.
And I think you hid behind this, I like to stay home and yada, yada, yada bullshit. And really what you like to do is go out and adventure, and you like to do exciting new things, and, sometimes chose or, put yourself in a box not to get those things because you didn't want me to be the one doing it for you.
Yeah.
Where I think that shifted a lot in the balance. And, I think about the relationship contract you wanted and conversations we were having because, you wanted it to be fair for everybody and all the things. And now you're far, far away from that.
Well, and I remember it was Thanksgiving that first year we were together, and we went to the grocery store and we got all the things for Thanksgiving. And that's, I was definitely still having a lot of money challenges and shit like that. The divorce and everything else was going on at that time. And anyway, all the things. And, you just like stepped in and paid for the groceries. And I was like so grateful and so uncomfortable at the same time. Like I had the money, but it was it was a stretch and it was a lot of money at the time. Right. And I remember, and I talk about that quite a bit, where I was like, it was really hard for me to just let you do that and not feel like I had to reciprocate in some way. I guess that's the thing. It was not letting you do it. Right. Like I'm going to amend my statement. Allowing you to do it is not the problem. Feeling like I couldn't reciprocate in kind was the problem.
Yeah, I think you struggle with that a lot. You felt like, and as humans, we do that a lot. We feel like we gave something and it had this value of 100, and the thing I got back was a value of 60, or, you feel like you're giving a value of 40 and somebody gave you a value of 100, and then you feel responsible to make up the 60 instead of just appreciating the thought.
Yeah. And what I never really saw it as, and again, more getting into the work of being open to abundance coming from everywhere. And as of right now, we're in this abundance challenge with my clients. We're doing this 31-day abundance challenge and kind of decentering money. But like that was a way that abundance was trying to flow to me. And I was blocking it because I was so uncomfortable with it, right? Like the embarrassment, the shame of feeling like I needed it, even though I didn't need it. Like I had the money. I wouldn't have walked into the grocery store if I didn't, right? There was a lot of shame in that. And I didn't realize at the time that even just, allowing you to pick up groceries or, do those types of things. Like you pay for a membership for my car to be washed. And like, I still sometimes I'm like, oh, he pays for that. I have to go do that, and not because I feel like I owe you, but because I probably could.
There was an intention behind that for sure. And it was because I didn't want to be the guy that had to go wash your car every Sunday. And I know you go out a couple of times a week. So if I just do this thing and make it easy for her, she'd probably do it. And, but that's still, like sometimes we struggle with that as humans in general. Like I made it easy for her. Why isn't she doing it? And really, she just wanted a clean car. She had no intention to be the factor in the clean car. But that's how it works. Like we want things and we don't have the intention of making it happen. We just want the thing. And that's the human condition if I ever saw it. But I guess it'd take a reminder to your forehead to wash your car twice a week, you might do it, especially when you drive by it to get coffee. But I mean,
I don't drive past it to get coffee. Starbucks is
sure.
before the car
right.
wash, and Sonic is in the opposite direction.
Right.
So I don't actually, except on Sundays when we go to the grocery store.
But you should certainly remember to get your Sonic Dr. Pepper and all the things.
Every day. Well, let's talk about our motorcycle adventures. So you always wanted a bike. Like I was not a factor when we started dating. Like it was pretty much like sometime in the next year, I'm going to come home with a motorcycle, and I was just like, okay. And then you came home with a motorcycle. How did you expect that to go?
I've done it once in a previous relationship, and it went over like a fart in a closet.
Right.
It wasn't sunshine and rainbows, and I wanted something that that I could experience with someone, and it's one of my favorite things to do. And I didn't get deep into that, and that might be an episode far, 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 far away of previous relationships and the drama that I caused and all the things, but. When somebody doesn't trust you, asking to do something that requires a lot of trust isn't probably a good thing to do. And I think you pointed out to me that earlier.
Literally the first time I got on the back of the bike. So the story is my dad had a bike, right? Like I am well aware I'm dating my father. Derek's aware I'm dating my father. I think my father's aware I'm dating my father. So it's not a secret because I absolutely am. And my dad's the only time I've ever been on back bike is my dad, which is the total, like my sister was like any man with a bike. She was like, yes, please. It didn't matter what kind of bike. Like, no, it was just my dad. It was just not a thing for me. A lot of young women, that was like hot and fun. For me, it was just not it. And I didn't know how I'd feel about it, but obviously I was willing to get on the back of the literally the first day I got on the back of the bike, I was like, I now know why she wouldn't get on the back of the bike with you. She didn't trust you. Like the amount of trust it requires to it was zero control. I'm not have any real control anyway, but do you know what I'm saying? Like the vulnerability of being on the back of a motorcycle, in and of itself is pretty scary, but also to not be the one driving the machine is also pretty, but I also have no desire to drive the machine. That's the thing too. You've asked me that before. Do you want your own bike? And no, because then I have to think about how insane it is what we're doing. So if I can just sit in the back and look at the trees and like enjoy myself, I don't have to think about the insanity of going 80 miles an hour on a 2-wheel thing with a tractor trailer next to you. Like it just feels silly. So I don't have to think about it in that way. But I love our motorcycle adventures. They're some of my favorite things we do.
For sure. Every Thursday and on the days we can do, it used to be now.
Well, not
Schedules
this time of
flipped it
year.
around and all the things. We got some rides into December last year.
Did we? I
Big
don't
one.
remember that. But I do love our motorcycle adventures. And it's a big part. Like, it accidentally created a really consistent date night, which
Yeah.
I think has been extremely healthy for our relationship.
Yeah, high five for my idea.
You're so good, babe. And honestly, we noticed a shift in our relationship in this short season we gave up date night.
Yeah.
And we gave it up for the kids, right? It was when the kids went back to school in the fall, and we were really busy, and you were coaching baseball, I was coaching volleyball, right? Like 5 nights of the week, somebody had to be somewhere, right? You play pool, all of those different things. And date night was the thing that didn't get done every week. And it really did impact our relationship.
For you, for sure.
For me, for sure, but it did for you as well.
Yeah, it was different. It's different not getting that, that night that we argue with each other over stupid shit. Date nights hasn't always been perfect, but it's something that we always did together, and we always ended on the same page for the most part. I think there was that one time at band camp. It didn't quite go that way.
But that was in that season when shit was really busy and stuff. That was absolutely that. And what I attribute that to is we got so busy, and I got really into my masculine energy because I was running the house. You had just gotten the new job. You were traveling a lot. I was managing the calendar, and I just slipped right back into that energy and right back into that role. And, even though it just threw our relationship off for a little while. And I'm really grateful that I got my shit together and figured out what was going on.
For sure. Me too. It was a rough patch.
But yeah, I think date night's a big part of that. And it's not something I've ever done in another relationship. But like, I think, I would think long and hard before giving up date night again. What other things do you think we do in our relationship because I actually was just talking to Derek about this morning, and I think I'm candid with a lot of my clients that talk about this. Like, our relationship is just so different than anything else I've ever experienced, right? This is no shade at all to anyone whom I ever dated or anything like that. I was a different person. Like, I made conscious choices to date who I dated, married who I married. So this is not a knock to that. But like, I've never, I had a very traditional sitcom view of relationships, right? Where the man was, I'm thinking of, there's something about Raymond, right? Like, all of those shows where the men were big and dumb and stupid, right? And the women were, and that's just the way they were depicted. You sat in a chair and they always bickered, and there was a lot of arguing, and, that was my view of relationships. I didn't ever even think I aspired to have a relationship like our relationship.
You think they were portraying him as big, dumb, and stupid, or just more aloof? I mean,
in my story, is big, dumb, and stupid.
Really, like, aloof means pretty much the same-ish, but like, that's a strong interpretation.
But go back and watch sitcoms in the 90s. All the men are big, dumb doofuses who aren't very smart, and their women are all hotter than them and doing all the work.
Okay. I guess we'll have to go back and watch some sitcoms. You don't watch TV. Is this why you stopped watching TV?
Yeah, because the representation of female, probably, maybe subconsciously, unconsciously, I didn't make a conscious choice to do that now. But our relationship is not something I think I ever really aspired to have, because I don't know if I've seen it modeled.
Sure.
In one where, because I remember asking you very early on in our relationship, like in the past, like, what does the honeymoon phase look like? Like, how long does the honeymoon phase last? Like, I think I started to ask you, like, how long does this last? Like, I just enjoyed being around you, and we had so much fun together, and it didn't matter what we were doing, whether the kids were there or not. Like, it just was always good. And I was like, well, how long is this going to last? Do you remember what your answer was?
I said something really awesome, I'm sure. Well, you enlighten me? Because it stuck with you.
Yeah, you told me that it lasted as long as we worked on it.
That sounds about right. I would say that.
You were like, it will be this good as long as we work on it being this good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you stop, we'll use your singing voice. What we were driving to the lake, and we had been, seeing each other again for very long. And, I was like, your voice sucks, but I could rock out in the car with you. It's a pretty good sign, and as long as you talk about the things, like, there's this thing that bothers me about you, but I love you anyways. And you just, like, you say those things, and, I think a lot of people just start focusing on those things instead of, the things they loved, when it's a first relationship, it's exciting and new and yada, yada, yada. And, then they miss a text message, and you're mad about that. Then they miss text messages all the time. And then you just start adding up the losses instead of adding up the wins, Not to say that we don't keep score, still.
You still keep score.
I
was never keeping
operations, mate. You got to put a tick in each column, and you got to suffer.
He's winning for the record.
I win a lot. I mean, there's no reason to play the game if you're going to lose.
But when you win, I win.
I mean, that's the goal, right? And I think I told you that early and often,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm winning because you're winning. And, I think that was always the thing. Like,
Yeah.
in relationships, when I feel trusted and inspired, I'm always a giver. But I can take pretty quickly. And when I take points off the board, I take them off in big chunks. I think that's the problem that I've always had is, and if you go into the deficit, it's real bad. But I think our relationship stays at a high level on,
Sure.
so even if I take a chunk, there's, but yeah, not where I was going with that.
No, I was just talking about like the intention that we put into our relationship. And again, I just don't, again, no shade to anybody. Nobody told me that, right? Like it was like, go find yourself a husband. And then after you find yourself a husband, you should have some kids. And, I don't think anybody said like, this is how to build a really solid relationship. And it sounds silly to say that, like, duh, of course you should invest in your partner, but I was too busy investing in my career. I was 29 when I met my ex-husband. I was already relatively high up organizationally. Like I was doing well, as far as career wise and in that regard. So it was so different. Partnership looked different to me at that point. And I feel like, I don't know if I was somebody who's capable of being a good partner, and I'm not going to blame any partner of mine for that. Right. Like I just don't think, again, relationships felt transactional. It was give to get and all, and not always in bad ways, right? Like it wasn't intentional, it wasn't malicious, but that's what we're taught. And I think what you and I work really hard on is giving to give, right? Not giving to get. And giving in all the ways, whether it is in compliments or loving your partner in their love language, or, the little things. Like I came home for being out of town and he bought dinner and cookies and it was so nice.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to get said dinner and
Yeah.
cookies, and I thought, man, she's gonna get home and I'm not gonna be there. And there was a moment I'm like, what is she gonna think I was out doing? But I have those moments still sometimes where like I'm like, things don't feel as they should, from past experience and all the things, and it's just funny. I made it back in time perfectly, and I almost had the plates on the table and all the things, but it was fun.
I know. It was really fun. It was perfect. It was such a delightful way to come home. And that's, again, a big part of my message that we talk about here on the show is it's the little things, right? Like I used to think that a great big life meant like fancy dinner in a fancy restaurant, right? And to me, and this version, in this, iteration of who I am and what we're experiencing, that was perfect, right? It was exactly right. And it doesn't matter. It could have been anything. You did go and get steaks, but you could have gotten anything and I would have been equally as delighted, right? Like you could put a Sonic cheeseburger in front of me and I would have been equally as delighted that you thought about it, you went out, you ordered for me, you know what I like, and you did it before I made it home or but like to me that meant just as much as a fancy expensive dinner because it was thoughtful and it was intentional. And I think that's a big part of why our relationship is good.
I was thinking about the funny conversation happening at work about a teammate that bought gifts for some people, and the female teammates were all like, but that wrapping looks like crap. And he's like, but the thought was really there.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, but how do you, measure? And, yours is, more on the thought was really there,
Right.
more on the execution, but I try to execute at a pretty high level because I got to get those points where I can. Cause like
I'm not keeping score.
I am, but we all keep score. You always say you don't keep score, but we were talking this morning about when you see something and you're not keeping score, but your internal files are, your internal processor is keeping score. And when that trigger comes up, you're not keeping score, but the rest of your lifetime is keeping a score. I get the emotion of the score. The more you're in tune with me in that moment, I get less of that because, what's happening now is overpowering that processor of bringing up the old emotions. And the more that I can make those moments feel better, your processor is going to, that good old recency bias thing starts coming in.
For sure.
But it's an interesting that you don't think you keep score, but you keep score better than most with your emotions.
I think that is also something that would surprise a lot of people is that I am extremely emotional. It surprised me because again, in the role and I try to be as vulnerable as I can and open as I can, but I play a role in a lot of women's lives where, I very intentionally hold my emotions so there's room for hers, right? Like, and it's what makes me really excellent at what I do. So I think a lot of people who watch make an assumption about what that looks like behind closed doors. Would you like to share with them what that looks like behind closed doors?
What looks like,
My emotions. that I tend to, I don't want to say, I can't even come up with the words, right? But it's like when I make space for a client, my emotions don't factor in, right? Like when I'm with a client, in that capacity, or I'm on a group call or whatever, like my shit stays at the door and I'm 100% present, right? Like and locked in and intentional. And obviously I'm not vigilant 100% of the time. So that guard goes down and there's a whole lot of emotion under there that I don't think I even knew.
For me, it comes across as anger, but it's really frustration. And I think with us, we're both very high thinking, very oriented on a solution people. And you like things, you in your ADHD brain, if we're going to label it something, you overthink everything. When I've said something, I've already thought of 30,000 things in that moment of what to, oh, I could say that or that or that or that or that. And you're like, but it could be this and this and this and this and this. And, oftentimes you do that internally and I don't hear it out loud. And you've made this long drawn out decision in your head that I was no part of. And when I question it, when it comes out of your mouth, sometimes it feels like I'm telling you you're wrong. And it aggravates you to no end because it's just like, if he just knew how much fucking thought I put into this one answer. And I'm like, if she would just hear my part of it too, so I could be fucking part of it. And this is where all our arguments come from.
Yeah.
Like the other day you asked me to make the tuna salad before I left. And, I made the tuna salad and I left a couple things in places in case something needed to be adjusted or whatever. And, like it was an interesting in my head. And I even thought about I should take this onion off the counter and do this thing because she'll probably have a problem with it. And, she starts cleaning it up and has this internal attitude that why couldn't he just fucking clean this up when he was done? And she didn't realize the conversation that was happening in mine. I didn't realize the conversation that happening was hers. And, when she looks at you and says, I'm over here doing this. And it's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And I ask a question and I don't think I said, what's the matter? I was like, but in my head, I'm like, why are you upset? And you were upset because you were finishing my project. And it was it's one of those moments that, the communication is lacking because you've already had the conversation in your head and you decided this thing. And no matter what I would tell you would make you change your mind. and you get mad when I try to tell you.
I do. I did a good job though. I kept it in check.
For sure.
I mean, you knew I was annoyed.
I mean, but you went outside and consoled with mom because your mom was here with the kid.
I didn't console.
I'm teasing.
I gave her, whatever needed to happen at the time, but I did. But that's one of those things with this work is I knew I was pissed. I was like, you didn't finish the fucking project. But another version of me would have told the story. I was like, why did you even bother? Like, you shouldn't have even fucking made the tuna if you weren't going to fit. Like, that was the difference. Is I was annoyed that I was wiping down counters and doing dishes in a fucking formal gown for sure.
Right.
But I knew I was, again, intention, right? His intention is good. He wasn't thinking, like he did what I asked. And men are very singularly focused. And the ask was, can you please make sure there's something for the children to eat when they get home from school so mom can take them to like wherever they needed to go. Yep. And that was the assignment. And in your big, beautiful boy brain, you completed the assignment.
With extra thought of, I know this might make her mad, but this is why I'm leaving it out.
Just to see if it pisses her off?
No, because if I was going to make the tuna and crackers when he got inside, I was going to have those things to do it. And then wipe down the counter because crackers could have got on the counter. There's like a whole more like long drawn out thing that wasn't yours. And when it's not yours, you get angry because your decisions sometimes are final.
I don't think that surprises anybody.
No, not at all.
I could talk to you every day, all day. What else do we need to talk about today?
I think that's about it.
Were you hoping that I'd ask you any other questions?
Geez, I told you that you could ask me whatever you wanted. So I hoped for what I got.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me that you think would be interesting?
That's not my jam.
That's true. That is really interesting as well, that I think most people would describe Derek Sobek as quiet. But you talk to me all the time, but you are still right. And again, I don't know if that's male versus female. Like,
I question with intention.
Yeah.
And very rarely question with And that's something I'm working on though. My questions, I'm expecting or wanting to receive certain responses to understand what to do or unpack the situation. And sometimes I don't do it inquisitively to understand the person more. And I just went through a leadership deal this week, and one of my takeaways is separating the goal from the person. And sometimes I don't always do that. Even with the kids, like separating the goal from the person. The goal is to get them better at what they're doing. And if they're struggling, it has nothing to do with the person and everything to do with their understanding of the goal and what it requires to get there. And instead of, being upset with the person that they're not achieving their goal, go back to, understanding my part in training them and doing the things.
You're so good at that. Like, you're a really excellent teacher. You do such a good job with that. And you remind me of that often. Like when, I tend to solve the problems for the children and you're like, don't solve their problems, teach them how to do it.
Right.
You're really good at that. You're really, really good at that. I think this might be a final question, but I don't think we'll be done quickly. So obviously, you know who listens to my podcast, right? You know who my clients are. They are all women who, in some iteration of me, right? Maybe they're me 2.5 years ago when we met. Maybe they're more me now. Maybe they're me 5 years ago, and I don't think you would have liked her very much. But as a man who is very secure in your masculine energy, dealing with a woman who is also goal oriented and also professional and also career oriented. And, what do you think would surprise women about what men feel about that?
I think, at least for me, maybe you should rephrase the questions to a man, because that was a lot of woman speak.
Well, I want you to, because she's the one asking the question. I want you to
Right.
think about, she's the one asking you the question, right? Like, what does this look like to you? Like, we've been told, society tells us a story about how men feel about ambitious women, professional women, career women, all those different things.
This is a good one. When a man asks what a woman wants for dinner, he wants the damn answer. But that's what it makes me think about. It makes me think about, like, we want there to be I don't need to be in control. I don't need to, but I need you to come along. I need you to be there when I need you. But I think there is space. But I think the thing is I don't want a masculine woman. I want a woman that's really good at being feminine. And that's the difference. Like, I think women, sometimes feel like they have to be loud and in charge in order to be in control. And I think it's the opposite.
Yep.
Like, you have to give space for the masculine from the other side and be more feminine. And that was, I say, the balance is you can be powerful as a woman in your feminine energy and not being your masculine. And I think that's, maybe I could say it differently, but I think, like, you've let me lead, but I've also let you make decisions in a partnership.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's not about one, it's a balance of power, and the balance of what's going on is the most important thing.
I had a mentor once she always said equal power, but different.
Right.
Equal power, but different. Like, our relationship is very much a partnership, but it's equal power, but different. And I think that when I was very much in my masculine energy all the time, there was no such thing as equal power. I was the power, right? And so I had to learn equal power, but different, right? Like, letting you lead, letting you make decisions didn't make me weak, didn't make me submissive in some way, shape, or form, didn't make me less capable or less powerful. And
no, it's just something it's something you gave me. It was like giving. Like, I give you the opportunity to do things. You give me the opportunity to do things. So it's like it's not equal power, but different. It's just no power at all. It's balance. No push, no shove, no give, no take. It's just is.
And I think that's another part of our relationship when it comes to, like, women and what we think of men. Obviously, I've been studying this for a while. I talked to you guys a lot about Alison Armstrong and her body of work. And she talks about, what wound up happening with men and women is we wound up being positioned as adversaries, right? When it comes to, and especially in our careers, right? Like, wanting equal pay and all of those different things that we want as professional women, that accidentally made men our opponents. And I don't think we were ever designed that way, right? Like, biologically, scientifically, we are meant to be in partnership, but not just in men and women, I think, as humans, right? And I think so many successful people feel very lonely in their success, and whether that's in their romantic relationship or their friendships, because, again, they do think it's a power struggle. And for you and I, it's a collaboration, right? Like, we bring our power together, and that makes us, then it's two together, right? We become stronger,
Sure.
It's, again, you're not a Bible guy, but we're two or more gathered. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think you and I have done that well, but I think that as women, at least for me, when I was in that situation, is I didn't even know what that looked like, right? It was adversary, it was transactional, it was, I had to get something out of, and not even just men, I had to get something from somebody else, right? I would do that in sales, like I need to get something from this other person. I think learning to not have to go get something, but expect that somebody just wants to give you something, kind of like we were talking about receiving, and what that looked like for me. I struggled with that because, yeah, you just wanted to give it to me and you didn't expect anything in return. But the beautiful part of that is when you don't expect anything in return, you get back more than you ever could have if you had expected it.
That's what it's all about. That's what sales is all about for sure. It's, giving the customer something unexpected so that you can get something from them. It's what life's about, giving somebody something that grants them the joy that they're trying to put out into the world, and you get, I always said tenfold, and you're like, that's not what it says. What you get back in spades, I believe, like I said, I spent a lot of my life not giving out trust. And, when I started giving some, it started coming more and more and more. The trust in myself and trusting you and all the things.
Thanks, babe.
No problem.
Nothing else?
That's it.
That's all you got?
I'm done when you're done.
I love you. Thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.